Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Stolen African channel. I am the Stolen African. We need to talk, guys. We're under attack. We are under attack. In fact, we've been under attack for exactly 611 years. The onslaught started in the 1400s, 1413 more to be precise. The Portuguese were the original perpetrators. They captured the Moroccan city of Quetta, marking the beginning of their maritime exploration along the African coast. That's up north. Yeah, and of course, in 1442, they reached they Portuguese sailors. They reached the Senegal River, which is considered one of the first significant contacts with sub-Saharan Africa. And of course, we know what ensued. The the transatlantic slave trade, of course. Then you have the Dutch down at Cape Coast, down in South Africa, and it's been an ongoing battle since 1413 that we're still feeling the effects of the landing of the Portuguese on the continent of Africa. So we are still under attack, folks. And when you think about it, 611 years, that's over half of a millennia that we've been suffering. And of course, the some people may say, well, it's been such a long time ago. Things have changed. Yes, things have changed. Have they changed for the better? You be the judge. You tell me. Have things changed significantly? Well, we're not in chains anymore. We're not being sold on the auction block. We're not being ferried around the world like cattle to the Americas, to the Caribbean, to South America, to different parts of the world as a commodity, as cattle. But we are still feeling the effects of that first landing in 1413. And of course, fast forward to the Berlin Conference. Hmm. And what are we talking about here? Fast forward from 1413 to 1884, 1885, we have the Berlin Conference. And the funny thing is, the Berlin Conference was a meeting of European powers. It took place on November 15, 1884 to February 26, 1885. It was convened by Otto von Bismarck, that one, the first chancellor of the newly formed German Empire, of course. And the sad thing is, this conference was attended by 14 nations, including Britain, France, Germany, Portugal, and the United States of America. Of course, the main goal was to regulate the European colonization and trade in Africa because, of course, they didn't want to fight in their own backyard. So they decided, well, we don't want to go and fight on the African continent over its riches. Let's just devise a plan to carve it up so we can get a little parcel for ourselves and divvy it up amongst ourselves so we don't trip over each other. But mind you, before 1884, 1885, the African continent was already colonized. You already had the Brits. Britain was already here on the continent. The Portuguese, of course, Germany, of course, Belgium, France. Uh, France is one of the biggest thieves, one of the biggest perpetrators on the continent and the rest of the world. Of course, um, this conference resulted in the General Act of the Berlin Conference, which declared the Congo River Basin to be neutral, guaranteed freedom of trade and shipping for all states in the basin, and rejected Portugal's claim to the Congo River estuary. Of course, Portugal wanted the lion's share of the Congo basin, but they decided, nah, let's just keep it neutral. But then what ended up happening is King Leopold ended up carving up a huge chunk of the basin for himself. I mean, you all know the atrocities that were committed by this buffoon. And I still have no idea how we let this happen, but I do have a faint idea. But we as a people were just too, and I think we still are to a certain extent, too naive, too nice, too welcoming to invite people into our land, into our home, and they literally took over. And sadly, we are still fighting over those fictitious borders that were established during the Berlin Conference. Now we're so busy claiming Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Zimbabwe, and we're busy fighting with each other over fictitious borders that never existed, speaking languages that are not our native languages. Even me recording this video right now in English is it's an affront to our ancestors. This should be the last language that we'd want to express ourselves in because it is not an indigenous African language. And I guarantee you, most of these other people who speak an indigenous African language, it's mostly for bragging rights. It's not because they have to, it's because they want to. And we're just now busy fighting over scraps. We're busy fighting over trivial things. Who's got the best jollof rice? Which country has bigger nyash? Which country is more developed? They're just laughing at us. They're laughing their asses off, to tell you the truth, because we're just too stupid to realize while we're fighting amongst ourselves, they're just busy making moves. They're busy just pillaging, plundering, with the help of the so-called African leaders, those puppet leaders who who are at the beck and call of the puppet masters. They do whatever they're told. Otherwise, they stage coups. They use different instruments to impoverish the African population more and more through debt, through loans. I'm not going to name names, but you know who I'm talking about. Um, we're doomed, guys. And me, the eternal optimist, I do hope for the best for the future of Africa, our future as a people. But it's not looking good, guys. It's bleak. Look what just happened rather in South Africa with the Miss South Africa pageant. While we're busy debating over a female contestant's true ethnicity, the other side is basically controlling the whole situation. Just for a quick statistic, the population of South Africa is roughly 60 million people. Roughly 8% of the population is non-melanated Africans, and 92% of the population is indigenous Africans, and some Asians, South Asians, of course. The makeup of South Africa. And sadly, over 80% of the economy is controlled by the 8% that's at the top. So when you're fighting your fellow Black Africans, melanated Africans over scraps, the people who actually control the wealth, they're immune to all that. They're at the top. They control the banks, they control commerce, they control natural resources, the land. Everything's being controlled by non melanated Africans. So, what are you fighting about? Let's say they control 80% of the wealth, and I'm being generous. I believe they control more than 80% of the wealth of South Africa. When you're deprived of the bare essentials, running water, uh, sanitary conditions are deplorable, the infrastructure is in shambles, load shedding, I guess you call it down there, is it's a daily thing. It's quite sad, really. But we're busy just calling for the closing of borders, kick out this ethnic group because they're stealing our jobs. They're stealing. I mean, it's laughable at best. But until we realize that we're fighting the wrong battle, we're still gonna be at each other's throat, and there's nothing that we can do to reverse this trend until we decide enough is enough, wake up, and take over what's rightfully yours. Because no one's going to give it to you. No one relinquishes power, nor riches, nor wealth. You want something, you got to go and get it. This is what they do. This is their modus operandi. This is how they've always functioned. They're not going to ask nicely. They want something, they invade, they conquer, they pillage, they unalive as many people as they see fit, and they take it. So, when are we going to wake up and realize that no one's going to come and save us, guys? No one's going to do it for us. We have to take over. We have to do it for ourselves. No one's going to do it for us. That's all I got, guys. Food for thought. Until next time, Stolen African. Stay black.